Hey everyone, before we get into today's episode, I gotta be honest with you. I recorded like an hour and a half today, and I had to cut like 20 minutes because I don't know if I did something wrong with my mic, but there are several moments. I have to leave some of them in. There's gonna be like some major like feedback in the mic. I cut a lot of it out. Just bear with me on it. This is like I hate audio issues. I can't just re-record the show. It's not gonna happen. So if you just be aware that there's going to be some points throughout the episode where there's just some bizarre audio issues, and I tried my hardest to fix it. I cut a lot of it out, so some of the tangents that I'm going to be on just kind of end, and then suddenly I'm talking about something else. I just had to cut stuff out, so I'm really sorry about that. But let's do the show. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Date today is the 21st of March, year of our Lord 2025. Welcome to yet another edition of the Goping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Single, a.k.a. Motel Noah. One of those instances, folks, where I know, at least for the first part of the show, I know why most of you are here. I probably put it in the title. The motorcade. Motorcade keeps on trucking along, folks. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? I don't know how many of you out there are ready to have this conversation. Non-Pistons fans. Maybe I should specify up top. Pistons fans, very much ready to have this conversation. I don't know. Maybe even Pistons fans are ready to have this conversation. Let me just set the stage here. The Detroit Pistons get flexed into a nationally televised spot against the Miami Heat on the road on Wednesday. I think the game it was supposed to be was the Timberwolves versus maybe the Suns or something, and ESPN was like, record scratch, freeze frame. You're probably wondering how we got here. Who fucking cares about either of these teams? Let's put the Pistons in there. The Pistons have been kind of hot, even though Miami is like seemingly the worst that they've been in terms of like a losing streak since Spoelstra took over the helm. What was that, 15 years ago at this point? Miami just in the mud. Pistons in the reverse mud right now. Cade Cunningham banks in a game winner, 0.6 seconds left on the clock, has a triple-double in this game, and I can't help but wonder, this is where I was going with all of this, this is what I'm not sure if people are ready to have this conversation, but I'm certainly at home, no home cooking shit, this is totally home cooking, ready to have this conversation. Is Cade Parker Cunningham the best player in the world? I think it's time to start talking about it because I haven't seen anybody bring up this point yet. Now, I just want to throw out there, pretty important note to his, was it a 25-point triple-double that he had against the Miami Heat? You know how many free throws he had? I'll give you a second to think about it. Cade Cunningham goes for a triple-double on the road, ESPN. Surely he had, I don't know, about 6, 7 free throws. He had zero. If you don't want to call him the best player in the world, and 99.9% of you out there maybe did a nasal exhale when I said that because you're like, shut the hell up. What are you talking about? What we can, at the very least, agree on as a constituency is that and this is where I'm being so for real. This is actually not home cooking shit. That's the most ethical hooper that we have in the NBA right now. Because I swear to God, if Cade got the whistle that Shea Grifter-Alexander got, he would be averaging the same amount of points, and we would be talking about him in a much different light, right? We're talking, what is he at, like 25 and change right now, points a game, Cade Cunningham? Over 30, and it's not close. Now, I say this, and if you're, you're tuned into all of these games, you might be thinking to yourself, didn't Cade just shoot like 20 free throws against the Wizards the other night? Yes, he did. He did do that. That did happen, but that's an anomaly. I mean, you look at his game logs, and it's like 4, 6, 5, 9, 0, 11, 2, 5. Like, he's not getting whistles. This has been something that we have covered on this show ad nauseum at this point. It's not even like a just this season thing when the Pistons just kind of kicked it into high gear and decided that they were going to be one of the best teams in the NBA. And Well, are they really one of the best teams in the NBA? Fuck it, sure. They might as well be. When you compare them to where they were 365 days ago, I don't think there's a hotter team in basketball right now. A team that believes in themselves the way that the Pistons do. Because, like, it's one thing when you're Oklahoma City. It's one thing when you're Boston. It's one thing when you're, one of the teams that's, like, actually, quote-unquote, good. And, you're Cleveland, and you're like, dog, we're about to win 70 games. Like, how are you hotter than us? I don't know. I just feel like there's, like, a different sort of confidence that comes with it. When you weren't expecting to be as good as you were. And I'm not trying to say that, I guess maybe when I say that there was not, how do I say this? Hold on. I was on a roll and I started talking too fast and I got excited. When I say that the Pistons are better than what they thought they were going to be, that is me projecting as a fan onto the team. I believe that the players are performing the way that they knew that they could perform all along. And it was just about getting the right guys in the building, right? Whether it's like the personnel within the team or the personnel within the, I don't know, the front of the bench coaching staff or in the front office, like whatever it is. When you think about a guy like Cade, dog, this has been in him the whole time. What did we draft him? 2021? Dude, it's been in him the whole time. And finally, we're starting to see it. We're finally starting to see, like, you go on social media and, like, suddenly now people are starting to talk about Cade. Like, it, and I can't be that mad about it because the national TV bump that you get when you perform the way that Cade did, it doesn't mean nothing. You know what I mean? And, like, as Pistons fans, like, whoa, we got flexed into a nationally televised spot. Like, when does that... I'm not trying to be, like, annoying and talk about the dumb nuances of, like, broadcast flexing, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like one thing to be, like, pre-scheduled. Every team's got to have, like, one nationally televised game a year. And some of those teams, it's just going to be, like, NBA TV. So that's, like, that doesn't even count. That's not even real. But when you are in the middle of March and ESPN, the main broadcast partner of the NBA, I say main in favor of TNT, or rather not in favor, but instead of TNT, because they get to do the finals. ABC gets to do the finals, so I just think they're sort of the number one. When they decide, when the network execs decide that actually we need America to look at Detroit, I can't wrap my head around that. If that's not a sign that things are moving in the right direction, if the record didn't already give you the indication that things were moving in the right direction, you know what I mean? I don't know how to make this point, but I kind of want to throw it out there and, maybe I'll find the take like somewhere halfway through. So Cade Cunningham gets a $200 million plus extension from the Detroit Pistons. And, like, I don't know, Jeff Teague has had this point before where, like, there are dudes in the NBA who either care about winning a championship or they care about getting paid. And I think that's a good point. That's a good take. I don't think there's anybody in the quote unquote media of the NBA who has a higher approval rating right now than Jeff Teague, by the way. Just, like, always right about shit. He's just always, like, because he doesn't take himself too seriously. I think he's just the best, right? And I think when you think about that in terms of the Detroit Pistons, first of all, I think all of them are guys that want to win a championship. But it's one thing to have, like, a cast full of guys who are, like, in lockstep in that ideology. It's a completely different thing when your number one guy also feels that way. When you set the tone in the way that Cade Cunningham does. I've sat here and I do the thing where I'm like, how about this Cade guy? How about this Ron Holland guy? How about this Asar guy? How about this Tobias? I gotta say, I have always maintained that I will say when the moment is right. Like, even if I know that the Devin Booker thing, it's just going to happen. Sealed and signed. She's not my lover like Billie Jean, but the kid is mine. Devin Booker will be a Detroit Piston. But when the time is right, and we will know when the time is right, I want to make an announcement. We're close. It's like, in Deal or No Deal, when you have to push the big red button to say deal, or to say, well, not to say, or, no deal, but to say deal, you got to push the big red button. But the big red button is concealed in a little glass case. And you got to open the little glass case in order to push the button. We are opening the glass case to push the button. We're right fucking there. And the reason that I say that is because at this point in the season, the Pistons will be playing some form of postseason basketball. They're not going to collapse. I feel confident saying that's not going to happen because the floor for them right now is the play-in. And we've documented this. I don't remember what episode it was, but in recent episodes, we talked about, like, at this point, isn't it crazy that we went into the season and we were like, just make the play-in. I think that would be a success for the Pistons if they can get into the play-in, right? No matter what seed it is, as long as they can get into the play-in. Doug, we're talking about, like, they might have a chance to get the 4th seed. I think the last 2 games, someone may fact check me on this, but I believe the last 2 games of the season that the Pistons play, I think it's a home and home against Milwaukee. The implications there, as we wait for the regular season to unravel, the implications of those final 2 games are astronomical. We may be witnessing a Detroit Pistons team that has, at best, the 6th greatest turnaround in terms of a win-loss record in a single season ever, period. We may be watching a team that won, 14 games a season ago? Dog, they're clearing 500 this year. They're clearing 500. I don't want to say, and it's not close, as much as I would love to be hyperbolic and say it's not going to be close. It will be close. You know, at most, what are they going to win? 45 games? Fucking imagine that for a second. That the Pistons win 45 games this year. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is to say that first round pick that we've owed to, who was it? It was originally the Knicks, I think, and then that got moved to, I think, Minnesota in the Karl Anthony Towns deal. So I believe it's Minnesota that owns our first round pick. Dog, we've been waiting for this pick to convey for years now. I mean, originally it was like top 18, and then it was top 17, and then it was like top 13, and I think this year it's like top 11. I don't know what the protections on it are at this point. If the Pistons didn't make the playoffs until 2027, it would have converted to like a second round pick. So the reason that this is important is because as soon as this pick conveys, the Pistons are allowed more flexibility in terms of moving future first round picks, because as it stands for the previous few years, they have been handicapped not being able to move first round picks because they've needed to wait until this one conveys, or at least that is my understanding of how it has worked. So as soon as this shit goes to Minnesota and the Pistons do not have a first round pick of their own, oh my God, it's time. Do it. Send it. Fucking do it. I don't care what it costs. At this point, dude, I've spent too many years being like, this is going to happen. I know for a fact that there are some of you out there who have told me directly, at this point, it's just in your head that Devin Booker is going to be a Piston, because it is the only thing that I will talk about. It's the only goddamn thing that I will talk about, is that one day Devin Booker is going to be a Piston. I'm telling you right motherfucking now, at the risk of sounding like the lady on the plane who was like, I'm telling you right now, that motherfucker is not real. I'm telling you right now, that motherfucker Devin Booker is a Detroit Piston. That's what's about to happen. And the thing that is just, it's, dude, I'm not trying to get into a war with the Pistons subreddit. I'm really not trying to do that, because the truth is that they have more ammo than me. They have more soldiers than I do. They're going to win. They'll tear my ass apart. They already don't really fuck with me over there because of what happened with the Bunny Cardigan show, right? But I'm telling you right now, like, watching people overnight just decide that Devin Booker is not the guy that they want to go after years of being like, wouldn't it be great if we could bring this guy home? Like, what the fuck happened to, like, 4 years ago? People would, religiously post pictures of either Devin Booker pre-draft working out for the Pistons, wearing their jersey, or Donovan Mitchell pre-draft working out for the Pistons, wearing the jersey, being like, oh my God, like, what could have been? Like, I can't believe we missed on all of these guys. Like, I can't believe we drafted fucking Stanley Johnson. I can't believe we drafted Luke Kennard instead of Donovan Mitchell. What the fuck happened? What happened? What happened? No, I'm not trying to sound naive here. I think I know what happened. I think that Pistons fans in previous years wanted Devin Booker because, as a team that was starved for, a star, a guy who it was just like, give him the ball and he will get you a bucket and he will take you there. He will immediately be the best player on the team, right? Every team that's in purgatory, that's in limbo, that's, winning 30 games a season. They just go make a crazy trade. Like, that's why the Blake trade was exciting when it happened. Because it was like, holy shit, did the Pistons just get a guy that's going to take us out of purgatory? And that didn't really happen. It did for kind of one season, but in the way that it ended, it didn't. But Blake, to me, is still, like, I love Blake Griffin to this day, right? So once the Pistons finally move out of that purgatory phase and you have this core, right? You think about Cade, Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland, Jalen Duren. You think about all of these guys and you're like, holy shit, wow, we actually drafted well for a few years. I'm not really ready to part ways with these guys because it worked. It's working. We're watching it happen. And a lot of these guys haven't even reached their full potential yet, right? Including Cade Cunningham, by the way. I would say none of them have reached their full potential. All of them are like 23, 24 years old? These are all kids at the end of the day, and they're playing the way that they're playing. So from the perspective of people who have now soured on the idea of Devin Booker coming to Detroit, it's mainly, I think, this is the only read that I have on it, is like they're scared to young cores are made to be broken up. That's how this works. That is how the NBA has always worked. And some of you out there are going to be like, well, what about Oklahoma City? Touche. Yeah, I'll give you that one. But I would also say that Oklahoma City is, the way that they have been constructed is just such an anomaly. And when you have Sam Presti at the helm, like, it's something that it can't be replicated because it takes years and years and years and years to achieve, to pull off, to do synonyms what Sam Presti has done with Oklahoma City. So I just don't think that can be your foundation. I don't think it can be your building block. Congratulations, you did the first part right, where you drafted well for a few years. People like to shit on Troy Weaver, and they like to make fun of him for being a horrible GM. But what did he do really, really well? He drafted his ass off. All of the guys that you're talking about now, who you're like, oh, I don't want to give this guy up, all of them, with the exception of Ron Holland, were drafted by Troy Weaver. So it's like, at this point, I am sort of like literally whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get Devin Booker in Detroit. Because this is where I'm going to re-zag to my non-empathetic position. Motherfuckers have amnesia, I swear to God, because Devin Booker consistently has been an integral part of USA basketball, right? You think about the Olympics, or you think about FIBA, or whatever you want to do, even though that wasn't FIBA a couple of years ago that they got like bronze or some shit, and everybody's like, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. The truth is, who cares about international basketball when we play those competitions? As soon as it's over, like, who fucking cares? But, so I don't really blame people for forgetting, but motherfuckers definitely do have quote-unquote amnesia. Devin Booker is not a dude that has shown that he cares about where he's at in the pecking order, right? Like, you think about this last Olympics run that he had. People just forget. Like, everybody was so focused on, well, Jason Tatum isn't getting his minutes. Why is Jason Tatum getting a DNP and blah, blah, blah? You know who didn't bitch about that? Well, Jason Tatum didn't actually bitch about it. It was just people doing it on his behalf. Devin Booker. Because he just showed up and he hit his shots. And people are acting like, oh, if Devin Booker... Like, motherfuckers are like are questioning Devin Booker's character, which is the craziest shit in the world to me. It's going to be like Ivy, filler, and capital. That's all it's going to be. Dog, I'm dusting my hands. What are we talking about? Devin Booker's the best player on a finals team like 4 years ago. He's still in his prime, by the way. Devin Booker is not an old player. I'd have to look at his contract right now. I don't want to say, and he's under contract. I swear in recent years, I swear he has signed an extension. But if I'm wrong about that, then I'll wear it and I'll be wrong about it. There's no other place for him to go. And I'm not saying that like there are no other teams that could. No, Houston could absolutely go after Devin Booker, and I think they could make a really compelling offer. I think Orlando would be a great place for Devin Booker to go, and I think they could make a really compelling offer for him. But Detroit, being allowed the flexibility of moving future first-round picks the way that they are about to be this summer means that all bets are off. If he doesn't come to Detroit, I do not believe that Trajan Langdon tried. Because, like, real shit. Let me just throw out a hypothetical. I don't believe that this is real. I don't believe that this will happen, but it's not unfounded in the NBA that something like this could happen, especially in recent years. How often is it that a player will publicly say, or his agent will say, you can trade me, but I'm only going to this team, or I'm only going to one of two teams, right? It's not that uncommon. Now, is it equally as not uncommon for the team to be like, shut up, and then just trade them to a completely different team. Yeah, like look at the Damian Lillard thing. He destroyed Portland's leverage and was like, I'm going to Miami. I don't care how it works, but I'm literally going to Miami. And that's why the Heat got screwed, because they kept trying to lowball Portland. And they were like, well, he wants to come here anyway, so we don't have to give up that much. And then Milwaukee, and who was it, Boston, and whatever, how Portland, I think was, well, obviously Portland was in it. Damian fucking Lillard was being traded from Portland. However many teams ended up getting in on that deal. Everybody swooped in except for Miami, right? And there was a better offer that was on the table. Well, I don't know. What if Book is like he puts the stealth word out there that like, hey, will you just send me to Detroit behind closed doors? I don't know. Like, how are you going to feel about it if Devin Booker explicitly says, you can move me, but I want to go to Detroit? How's that going to make you feel? Because it's probably going to feel pretty good. It's probably going to feel amazing. And I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to think that Devin Booker, and it's not even that his load would be lightened in any sense. Like, no, maybe he's not going to be the primary ball handler on every single trip down the floor, but you don't think Cade wants to put the ball in his hands? You don't think JB Bickerstaff wants to put the ball in his hands? Who fucking cares? Like, if the Pistons are winning games and they have at worst top 20 player, top 25 player in the NBA alongside Cade Cunningham, who has been a top 10 player this year, dog, Devin Booker is an all-star. We don't even know what Jaden Ivey is yet. We have no idea. Based on the games that he was able to play this year, it would be easy to suggest that there could be an all-star appearance or two in his future. I'm not going to dispute that. But you know who has more than that under his belt? I don't know. A guy like Devin Booker. You know who else was the best? I don't think I've said this yet. Have I mentioned this yet? The best player on a finals team 4 years ago? That was Devin Booker. You know who's from Grand Rapids? Not Jaden Ivey. It's not Jaden Ivey. It's Devin Booker. I don't care who goes in the deal. I do not care who goes, but it makes me sad. I don't want to say it upsets me. I don't want to say it bothers me or makes me mad or anything like that. It makes me sad to see Pistons fans just completely 180ing on the whole Devin Booker thing. It really bums me out, because I'm just letting you know, like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And that's fine, right? It's fine, because we're just going to fucking rule next year and go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But like, this is not a Victory Lap podcast. I'm never a guy who's going to say I told you so, but like, don't shoot the messenger, right? This has been years and years and years in the making. I never like to assume that anybody listening to any given episode has consumed my entire body of work, right? Like, that would be an asshole move. But I'm just letting you know, I never like to be the guy who's like, I fucking told you so, but I'm telling you right now, he's coming. It's happening. We have lifted the glass on the big red button. Just let this simmer. Let this marinate. I might stop watching the NBA, by the way, if he does not come to Detroit. If he comes to, let me hedge my bets here. Because no, it's not open and shut that he's coming to Detroit. But I believe that it is. I cannot stomach the idea that he would go anywhere else. Detroit Pistons on a rocket. Devin Booker seemingly coming to Detroit. At least that's what. And has there ever been a moment where you just see more discourse about this? Ever? No, there's not. What else has been going on in the NBA? Yeah, the Celtics got sold. You guys see this? You hear about this? The Celtics got sold for $6.1 billion. A guy by the name of Bill Chisholm. That's interesting. You know what the most interesting thing about the Celtics getting sold for $6.1 billion is? The guy that bought the team doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Is that interesting to you? Because that was a little nugget, I thought. Really? The guy who imagine that. A guy who spends $6.1 billion doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Now, some of you unwell actually bitches might race to the comments or shoot me an email. copingoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. And you might send me his Wikipedia page. I'm telling you right now, if that happened, they put that shit up like within the last 12 hours. Because the second that this sale went down, the guy did not have a Wikipedia page, which I thought was an interesting reflection. It was like you put a mirror up to billionaires, and you're like, damn, they really do exist in the shadows, don't they? Like, there are the public-facing ones. You think about, like, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, or name a billionaire, right? Like, Jeff Bezos and Mark Cuban. Like, these guys have influence. A lot of billionaires, like, you don't really know that much about. If you look at the richest people in the world, I'm going to say 90% of them, you have no idea who they are, right? Apparently, this guy is one of them. And the thing, here's what concerns me, right? I don't want to start firing off a bunch of takes that might age horribly. I say that after I just spent 30 minutes being like, Devin Booker's going to be a Piston, and if you say otherwise, you're a fucking idiot and you're wrong. But here's where my brain went. Okay, so what do we know about old Bill buying the Celtics? Well, we know that he's a private equity firm guy. We know that he's a tech guy. Shit. Red flag. Another tech guy got into the NBA. That's not good. Who was the last tech guy that got into the NBA? Was it Ishbia? No, he was mortgages. Yeah, he was wholesale mortgage. Is that what his thing was? So that's like real estate. The Adelsons, the Patrick Dumont, the guy who's been calling the shots for the Mavs. I think he's also real estate. Joseph Tsai, tech billionaire Joseph Tsai. I think so. He would have been the last one, right? Okay, so new owner syndrome. Let's talk about it. New owner syndrome in the NBA. What is the recent history? Well, if we go back to Joseph Tsai, another thing that, I don't want to do too much of an oral history on him versus Matt Ishbia, because that's another thing that we've just talked so much about on the show. But I'll give you guys a brief rundown for those of you who maybe don't catch every episode, or maybe you're listening for the first time. So Joseph Tsai buys the team. And what do these owners want to do? They want to take a big swing, and they want to show their fans that they are committed to making a big product. They want to make a big splash, right? So Joseph Tsai, the first thing that he does, he gets excited and he goes after Kevin Durant, he goes after Kyrie Irving, he goes after DeAndre Jordan, and then eventually they make the trade and they go after James Harden, right? So they have this super big, shiny, expensive big three. We all know how that went. They played accumulatively not even 10 games together. They got bounced in the playoffs by Milwaukee because Kyrie blew out his knee, broke his kneecap. No, that was in the finals in 2015. Whatever Kyrie did to his leg. James Harden, 5 seconds into game 1 against Milwaukee, blew out his hamstring. I mean, immediately, the tip happened. Brooklyn goes down the floor. James Harden hamstring, done for the series. It goes the distance, but they still get bounced. And it just never happened for Brooklyn. So what did they end up having to do? All of the shit that they brought in, they had to sell everybody off for parts and regain all the capital that they lost in order to form that big three in the first place, mainly James Harden, right? So it didn't work for Brooklyn, and now they're kind of you're going to say that they're back on track? They're miserable, and they're sad, and their culture sucks. Whatever. So Matt Ishbia buys the Phoenix Suns. What's the first thing that he wants to do? He wants to make a big splash. Yeah, he wants to show the fan base that he's really committed to making a winning product. Especially after all the Robert Sarver shit. Have I mentioned this in this episode yet? Robert Sarver, noted racist and misogynist. So what does Matt Ishbia do? He's like, Kevin Durant, what's up? He's like, Joseph Tsai, I hear that you're selling Kevin Durant for parts because you guys got into a bad situation. Well, what if we took him? What if we not only took him, but we did the exact same shit that you guys just did? What if we did it, just hypothetically? And then eventually they go and get Bradley Beal, and I don't want to do another record scratch freeze frame. You're probably wondering how Matt Ishbia got here, but he just did the Joseph Tsai thing. He literally did the exact same shit. And now, who was Phoenix playing the other night? It was the Lakers, right? Where it was nobody on the Suns had any idea what was going on. It was the weirdest, is this a church league? What the fuck are the Suns doing? They have Kevin Durant on the floor. Nobody has any idea what's going on. They look miserable. Okay, so it's not working with them, and we still haven't seen a conclusion to that, but I imagine we will this summer, right? Because Kevin Durant wants to go somewhere else. I think he'll only have 1 year left on his deal. And then Devin Booker is going to come to Detroit. Bradley Beal chilling with his no trade clause, I guess. You guys see that quote the other day where he's like, I'm paid, I'm in the warm weather, and I got my no trade clause. Life is good. Fuck you. That lasts a little bit, and I got my no trade clause. Shut up. God damn. Don't be so transparent. So annoying. Whatever. Okay, so it's not working out for Phoenix. New owner syndrome. And then you look at the Adelsons / Dumonts owning the Dallas Mavericks. A little bit of a unique case here of new owner syndrome in Dallas, where instead of being we want to show everybody how serious and how committed we are to forming a winning product, they were like, what if we did the opposite? They're like, I'm Patrick Dumont, and welcome to Jackass. This is destroying an entire fucking franchise. And then in the middle of the night, they trade Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. They get Anthony Davis, It's going so poorly. I mean, Anthony Davis is like golfing and smoking cigars, and he played one game for Dallas and then was like the best that he looked the best that he literally ever has in his life for like 20 minutes. And then as the Anthony Davis experience goes, gets hurt. Is he going to be shut down for the season at this point? I don't know why he wouldn't be, but it sounds like Anthony Davis is committed to trying to come back. Who fucking cares at this point? Everybody's gotten hurt in Dallas. Everybody's out for the year. Name a guy on the Mavs, they're probably out for the year. There's like, I still don't know if I'm getting ballsack sports on. I'm not going to say this out loud because I'm probably getting goofed on this whole thing. The Mavericks are in the mud, right? We all know that. It's been well chronicled. It's the most recent history that we have in the NBA. So I do all of that setup, right? All of that buildup about new owner syndrome, and I look at this cat buying the Boston Celtics for $6.1. Bill Chisholm buying the Boston Celtics for $6.1 billion. That's interesting. That's interesting. You're telling me a Silicon Valley tech lizard isn't going to be trying to make some cost-efficient moves, maybe trim the hedges a little bit, get costs down on the margins? Dog, have you seen their salary sheet? Have you seen their payroll? In like 5 years, Jason Tatum has a $71 million player option. Do you think he's going to opt into that? I guess we'll have to wait and see. We're like 2 years away from Jaylen Brown making $60 million a year. A guy who this season, I don't know. If I'm a new owner, I come in here and I look at Basketball Reference. This Jaylen Brown guy, what's going on with him this year? I don't know. You want to get sick? You want to get nasty? The point that I'm getting at here, something weird is going to happen with the Celtics. I don't know what it's going to be. Just put a pin in this because I think they're fucked. This is not a good thing. Private equity firms getting into like sports ownership is not a good thing. And I think the NBA has been plagued how do I say this? It has been plagued in more recent years than any sport maybe in the world. I don't know about like cricket and shit, but that doesn't count. I'm talking like the 4 major sports in America plus soccer, right? So like in the NFL, I don't know, you don't have that many owners changing hands that often. And even when they do, like it's just, you don't see that many crazy moves being made. Baseball is another one. That's sort of a blind spot for me. I don't really know. The NHL, that's another one. No, even these sports, like they just don't go and make these big splashes. Like it's the NBA specifically. What is it in soccer? Like you go to Europe, like I'll just use the Premier League as an example. What's the worst case? The best case is you get purchased, your club gets purchased by oil money. Like somebody from the fucking Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund buys your team, aka Manchester City, like 12 years ago. And then you just spend and spend and spend and money launder and you do all of this shit. And then you just buy all of your championships. You buy all of your Champions League titles and your Premier League titles and your fucking Carabao Cup titles and your FA Cup titles, all this shit. You literally just buy it because you're printing money and this shit isn't real. Or the worst case scenario, you get bought by like an American owner who just cares about the dollars and does not care about the club. Something that a lot of Leicester City fans right now are worried is going to happen to their club, right? But in the NBA, I'm just wondering how, I was texting someone about this today and it stuck with me all day. I have not stopped thinking about this. You know, in like the music industry, how there are record deals, they're called 360 deals. And in essence, all that means is we sign you to a $50 million, $100 million record deal, right? We are not only, as the record label, taking a piece of the pie in terms of your streams and your albums being sold. It's everything. It's merch, it's touring, it's advertisement, like sponsorship deals, everything. If you're making money, no matter what it is, it has nothing, even if it has nothing to do with music, if you are making money, we are getting a piece of it. How close are we in the NBA to something like that? Because I don't think this is what I feel confident about. In America specifically, you talk about the big 4 sports with baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. There isn't a league that has more individual like star brands, right? The way that they carry themselves in the NBA and the recognizability of the players, it's second to none than what it is in the NBA. So I don't think it's that crazy to suggest that a few years from now, someone's going to sign a $500 million contract. And what's going to come with that is we just get a piece of everything that you do because you yourself, the players signing this deal, are very much a global brand. is, I don't know. The only way that this happens, though, is if okay, let me back that up a little bit. What's stopping that from happening now, presently, today, are unions, the players' unions. So, like, the NBA Players Association has done a good job of protecting its players. I don't know. There's some soft consensus out there that maybe they got sold down the river in this last CBA. I think we're still maybe in a little bit of a wait and see. Who has the best players' union in the 4 major sports in America? Probably baseball. It has to be baseball. Hockey, another blind spot for me. I don't know about the players' union in hockey. I have no idea. It for goddamn sure is not the NFL. So, like, the NBA Players Association, I don't think would ever let something like this happen, but I don't know. You never say never. We're in fucking Looney Tunes times right now. Clearly, we've drifted off into an alternate timeline, and nobody has any idea what's going on anymore. So I don't think it's that crazy to suggest that. So, like, one last, can I put a pin in the new Celtics ownership? $6.1 billion, by the way. What's the sickest thing that they could do? I think Porzingis' ass is out of there. I don't care how this season ends. Recent history would suggest that the Celtics are not going to repeat as champions because that's just not what has happened in the last, 7 years. It just doesn't happen, which is fine. They might still have a good run. They might still make it to the finals. Who knows? Maybe they'll lose to the Cavs in the conference finals or something like that. But sickest thing that they could do, you look at that Jaylen Brown contract, and you're like, how? Because you can't trade Tatum. You just can't. Some of you are going to be like, how do you trade Jaylen Brown? Guy won finals MVP. Didn't he also win the conference finals MVP? It's just a dollar amount thing. That's all that it is. We're just cutting costs here. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about money because that's how these tech guys are going to be thinking, right? Private equity firms. That's how they're going to be thinking. They could give a fuck how the players are performing on it. So that's nothing to do with this, right? I look at Jaylen Brown making $60 million in 2 years, and I'm like, well, we could have Kevin Durant for $51 million for 1 year. What if we did that? Oh, you don't want to do that? You think that's crazy? Okay. All right. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the St. Louis connection? We're keeping Tatum, obviously. Of course we're keeping Jason Tatum. Bradley Beal. They're boys. St. Louis. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is that crazy? It doesn't matter if it's crazy. Because here's what the Luka Doncic trade taught us. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. I don't care if that was a one-off thing, and the reason that we say that that was the craziest trade that has maybe ever happened in professional sports, period. The reason that it's as crazy as it is because it has never happened before and it will never happen again, something of that magnitude, but it did happen. It did happen. So, sure, I may be off with, what the Celtics are going to do. I'm just saying put a pin in it because, I don't know. Something weird is going to happen with the Celtics, and I think that they are going to get killed because we don't know anything about this guy other than he's bought and sold or started and sold multiple companies at this point. Private equity firms dipping their hands in the NBA basket. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? copinghour@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. Let's do this one from Ryan. Ryan, I believe, welcome back to the show. I believe I've seen you in here before. A lot of Ryans, a lot of Jacksons, too, that email. Sometimes it gets you guys all confused. So, Ryan, I'll just say welcome back, brother. Subject line, most unlikable figures in sports media. Hey, Nick. Last weekend before the Australian Grand Prix, this old guy who works for Red Bull as an advisor named Helmut Marko went on a rant about a bunch of rookie drivers basically just talking shit for no reason. Then, when one of his own rookie drivers crashed before the race even began, he was seen crying walking back to the garage. He went out and made a statement that the crying was, quote, just embarrassing, unquote. The kid is 20 years old, and it was his first ever race in conditions that were so dangerous that they honestly should have red flagged the race. The dude is pretty much universally hated by F1 fans. Now, I'm a big F1 fan, Pistons fan, and Lions fan, but I don't watch sports outside of Detroit teams, and I almost never consume any sports media outside of the Coping Hour /Funky Diabetic / the Shoot Around. Well, I guess that just got narrowed down to breaking the email for a second. I guess it's just the Coping Hour and the Funky Diabetic because the Shoot Around is dead as fuck. Back to the email. So, who is in the running to be the NBA / NFL's version of Helmut Marko? Helmut? There's no way it's Helmut Marko. There's no fucking way. Anyways, somebody who is always making unnecessarily negative remarks without ever making a good point. Obligatory legal take here at the end of the email. Donald Trump literally just sold like 200 people into slavery in a Venezuelan prison without due process and in direct contradiction of court orders. This will be looked back on as the country's lowest point since the Japanese internment, ... unless Trump tops it next week. Yeah, I saw the videos of that. The dudes like going, they get sort of mugged off of the plane by like 3 different officers. All of the police officers had their faces covered. And I think I get why. I think that's because the cartels that are still active, it's like these police are just protecting their identities in fear of retribution, which I guess seems valid. There's not really a flag there for me. And then they like get pushed down on their knees and they're like buzzing like their facial hair off and their heads off and they're just yanking them around and shit like that. Yeah, it definitely seemed weird. Seemed fucked up. I don't know if it's really the same as I get what you're saying. I don't know if it's really the same as the Japanese internment thing though. Cause like, didn't they, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I was going to say that at least the Japanese people, not at least, but the Japanese people that got put into like internment camps, quote unquote, in World War II in the United States, they were like just people, weren't they? Like they were literally just like straight up Japanese. That's it. They were like, "What's up? I'm Japanese." And then America was like, "Go to jail. What is this? No, what the no, hell no." But this is what I was gonna say. But I think I'm throwing a flag on the play on myself here. I was gonna say, well, aren't these guys like actual criminals? Well, I guess we don't know if they are or not because there was no legal process. We don't know. So I guess that's kind of your point. This is what I'm saying. I get what you're saying, but like, I don't know. It definitely seemed weird to just send a bunch of dudes to like a prison that like we don't really know where it is or like what goes on there. It's probably not very nice. Those South American prisons are very famously like underfunded, underguarded, overcrowded is the bit. They're fighting off like dysentery and shit like that. Yeah, that was definitely a thing that happened. What the fuck was your email about? Biggest villains in sports media? It's gotta be Perk, right? It's gotta be Kendrick Perkins. You talk about a guy who, I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I don't think he's ever had a take that I was like, yeah. The one that'll immediately stick out to a lot of us out there is when he said that people who vote, this is like 2 years ago, he said, if you vote for Jokic to win MVP, you're racist. That is the most, you talk about Trump, that's like the most reverse Trumpian shit in the world, where you say, if you don't do this thing, then you are this extremist thing. You know what I mean? We're like, how far away are we from Trump being like, if you support trans people, you're a fucking domestic terrorist or some shit like that, right? Like, remember all of the Antifa stuff that happened? And it was like literally, Antifa was like literally just like a bunch of kids. Not literally a bunch of kids, but you know what I mean? He's like treating them like they were domestic terrorists. That's not the case. Kendrick Perkins, wild guy, wild man. JJ Redick got in his ass for that one. Is this sort of like a dog pile thing? I don't really want a dog pile on Shaq, but Shaq's been having a bad, what do you want to say, 2 weeks? Some of you are going to say 2 months. Some of you are going to say 2 years. Some of you are going to say too long. Has Shaq had a bad too long on television? I think a lot of people have sort of switched on him, at least online they have. I don't think the ratings would suggest that people have flipped on any of those guys on that panel. But he's definitely said some just wrong shit recently, like objectively just dumb stuff. So he's probably up there. I don't think he's quite public enemy number 1 yet. Shaq is definitely up there. The NFL? There's got to be someone I'm just not going to think of. People don't like Schefter, but I don't think it's him. If this was 10 years ago, it would be Colin Cowherd. People have sort of almost ironically come around on him. He's a good guy. I believe he's a good guy. I like listening to him. The thing I like about Colin Cowherd, I don't listen to him that much. I usually listen to him when he's a guest on somebody else's pod. But like what I like about Colin Cowherd is he was, for me, the first guy to use obscure analogies to describe, to try to make the point that he was making. Like, he'll start a segment and he'll be like, here's why the New England Patriots are like Terminal B at Los Angeles International Airport. And he would spend the next 5 to 7 minutes making that point, and somehow it would make complete goddamn sense. I think he's brilliant at stuff like that. So I don't really think he's like an enemy. People don't like Nick Wright. I had a really positive interaction with Nick Wright during COVID. He was very, very nice to me. So for the rest of my life, he also didn't have hair at the time, I don't think. I don't remember if he had hair at the time. Did Nick Wright have hair during COVID? This is bald Nick Wright, I think is what it was. People have a problem with him, though. Emmanuel Acho is fucking annoying. There's got to be one I'm not thinking of. NFL, like, most hated. Some of you out there are maybe waiting for me to say Stephen A. Smith. I'm not going to say Stephen A. Smith. You could use him, honestly, for both sports. You could use him for everything. I mean, he talks about everything, except for, like, hockey. Stephen A. Smith will not touch hockey. Dog, he's literally the Chance the Rapper SNL sketch when he's, like, a on-the-ice reporter for hockey. He's like, I don't know what any of this shit is. He's like, straight up, I don't know what any of this is. That's Stephen A. Smith with hockey. He does not care. It's a good question. I'll leave the rest of the suggestions to the constituents. Coping Hour Subs at gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. I think there was one more. Let's do this one. Let's do another basketball one from Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the show. Subject line. I think this is a long email. Fuck, this is long. I'm gonna have to chop this one up, brother. Just because we're at the end of the show. Subject line. I cut my friend off over the MVP debate. Hey there, Nick. First-time emailer, semi-frequent commenter here. I'm being slightly misleading with the subject of this email, but let me explain. I'm going to break the email for 2 seconds. No, he's not. I've screened this beforehand. He's not being misleading. What he says happens is what happened. Back to the email. As we all know, the MVP race in the NBA this season has come down to Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. My buddy from college and I are in a fantasy basketball league together, and he's one of the few guys I can consistently text about the nerdy sports shit constantly on my mind. Recently, when we've discussed the MVP debate, he gets so adamant that the MVP has to be Jokic, and that there's no possible way it's even close. And if you don't agree with him, you're wrong. When I emphasize it in that way, it's because it's in all caps. I love Jokic. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but I think Shai is the more deserving candidate this year. He refuses to acknowledge my point of view. This was the final straw in me realizing that this is just a pattern for him. We're in a couple fantasy sports leagues together, and I've realized he never tries to have a genuine debate. He's constantly trying to troll and rage bait, and when he's serious, he's so adamant that he's right, and he's constantly making disingenuous arguments and ignoring any facts presented to him. He also has just shown some poor character as of late, and that some of our morals just aren't aligned in ways that really disappointed me. But that's a whole nother story. Another debate we had recently that made me realize this was so let me, this is where I'll speed ahead here. You did mention here that you're both from St. Louis. So Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum, what do you think about that? So let me speed ahead here. The thing that drives me up the wall about all of this is that he's never played any sports growing up outside of a couple seasons of youth soccer. And then insists he is the know-it-all of all sports. I don't want to make it seem like that's a requirement to talk sports, because it's absolutely not. But I do think you got to be like 50% less entitled about your opinion if you've never experienced the thing you're trying to argue. Sorry for the rant. Let me know if I was being crazy or butthurt. I wasn't planning on cutting him off forever, just until he hopefully realizes that he's being an asshat. Let me know what you think. Hope you and your family are doing well. I guess one thing I should have mentioned, so they got into an argument about Jason Tatum, and he mentioned, quote, so I've stopped talking to him. I just decided it wasn't worth my time or energy right now. And he's texted me multiple times trying to continue these debates, and I've just left him on open. Am I being way too dramatic, or am I taking this too seriously? This one's tricky because it's almost like you're putting a mirror up to, I don't know if you're putting a mirror up to like society, or if it's sort of like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, did your friend get melted by society, or did society get melted by people like your friend? You know what I mean? Because like there are two forms of hyperbole that we have right now, like on social media. What was I just had it. It's like extremist hyperbole and absurdist hyperbole. I believe that those are two different things, right? Like, we do extremist hyperbole on this show, but I like to think that even when I say Cade Cunningham is the best player in the world for the first 20 minutes of the show, like, you know that I'm being slightly tongue-in-cheek, right? Like, yes, I'm being a little bit serious, but I'm also like, we also know what it is, and the absurdist hyperbole is when, in your friend's instance, you just reject everything that does not reflect your reality, right? And so do I think that's worth cutting somebody off over? I mean, I think what you're saying here is that it probably goes a lot deeper than sports. Sorry, I just bumped the mic there. I apologize if that picked up. Probably goes a lot deeper than sports. If it doesn't, then chill out a little bit. But I'm assuming it probably does. I mean, you said your morals maybe aren't so aligned. Yeah, it happens. I'm never going to be the guy on this show that sometimes you guys will email about relationship problems or something like that. I'm never going to tell you to break up with someone or you should stop being friends with this guy or whatever it is. But I don't know. It sounds like you're kind of making that decision for yourself, and maybe just put your friendship on ice for a little bit, and maybe see if he chills out, and maybe see if you recalibrate a little bit. You come back to him, and maybe you can you have a better ability to deal with his bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's exhausting, and some friends you just kind of grow out of. That's all. That's fine. You're not going to be friends with the same people for the rest of your life. It'd be really nice if that was the case. But I have people that 10 years ago I was best friends with, and those same people I haven't talked to in 9 years. Just kind of the way that it goes. I don't think you're crazy. I mean, it's funny if a relationship ends the way that the subject of your email suggested, which was that he was just so wrong about what I'm already forgetting what you just said. So your case is that it's not inconceivable to think that Shea should win the MVP, and his is that it has to be Jokic. What's funny is Jacob, aka Rusty Buckets, and I were actually just texting about the exact same thing the other night, and I was very passionately you cannot give this to Shea Grifter-Alexander. It cannot be him. It has to be Jokic. But that just comes down to, but it's not I'm rejecting his school of thought. Jacob can throw a bunch of numbers at me. I'm not going to fucking care because it's what my eyes see. I guess maybe I do kind of sound like your friend. I don't think we would be friends because it sounds like I'm just doing the same shit. Do I want to, I don't think this is very nice to do. I kind of want to read. Is this a good bit? If I read the conversation that Jacob and I had the other night, I don't think Jacob's going to care. So I'm just going to do it. Fuck. Where is it? I'm going to keep looking. Here it is. Okay. So I said, if Jokic doesn't win MVP, we need to scrap the award, blow it all up and start from scratch. Jacob goes, SGA is averaging 34 a game on a team that's going to win 65 plus games. That's pretty strongly, definitionally, the MVP. I said, Ryan Russillo told me that if I look at the advanced numbers that it's Jokic and it isn't close. I'm not going to do it, of course, but I believe him. Jacob said, oh, so you're a calculator boy now? I said, I'm not autistic enough to give a fraction of a shit about the advanced numbers, but my metric is who the best player in the world is. Jacob said, yeah, to me, that's an entirely different conversation from MVP. The MVP is often the best in the world, but by no means is that always the case. And I said, and the cat in OKC isn't putting up 30, 20, and 20 with teammates who may or may not show up every other night, the way that Jokic is. Motherfucking Michael, well, hold on. I make the point here in a couple of texts. I said, yeah, because he doesn't need to go into overtime against the 11th seeded Sun. I don't need to keep reading this goddamn conversation. We got into it a little bit. And for me, that just goes back to I don't want to talk about hoops. I don't want to text about hoops at all. Let's talk about literally anything else. The truth is I don't really like texting that much. My screen time this last Sunday when, on your iPhone every Sunday you get screen time, 2 hours and 47 minutes. I'm not on my phone that much. I swear 2 hours of that is probably just me checking the coping hour email, just doing something like that. No, I don't think you're butthurt. I think maybe you're doing the right thing. Let's do a different one. copinghoursubs@gmail.com. Spelled phonetically, email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. How about this one from Eric? You guys want to do something feel good? We haven't had a feel good story here on the Coping Hour here on this program in a while. This one comes into us from Eric. Eric, brother, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to read this email. Subject line, big life goal finally achieved. Hi, Nick. My name is Eric. I've been listening/watching your content since you uploaded your reaction to the NBA lottery and, quote, Cade Cunningham is on my basketball team, unquote. Now, the first part of this email is a lot about me. And so, Eric, I really appreciate all this. I from the bottom of my heart, I read all of this beforehand and it meant the world to me. I'm not going to read it on the show because it's not about me, it's about you. So let's skip ahead here. You may be wondering why I'm emailing you at all about this, since I never have before. I've wanted to for so long. I am of a similar age to you. I'm turning 26 in April. Happy early birthday, brother. But I've had a very different life experience growing up in multiple European countries, and I love how open you are about your life, your struggles, your experiences, and your successes. I don't compare myself to you, but I love to draw a parallel with somebody whose life is different by virtue of having been born halfway across the world for me. I admire what you do and imagine you are and would be an amazing father. I don't want this to come across as if I formed a parasocial relationship. I just think you're a cool dude with a very different life to mine. So I think I jumped in on the email. It's still about me. So I thought that was the part where it started being about you. Here it is. So I apologize for that. The reason I waited until today to email is because I get my results today. For the past 8 years, I've been working towards finishing medical school here in London. I moved here from Milan all by myself when I was 18. The first year had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I met my current girlfriend and hopefully soon to be my fiancée, but I also failed my first year and had to spend my second year working full time before I could go back to university. Over the last 7 years, I've worked hard to get back into medical school and to get through every single year. And today is the day I finally finished and passed medical school. My childhood dream. My goal for the last 12 years. Everything I've worked for. It feels sort of surreal, but I also know this is only the beginning. As the responsibilities start now, and the learning will continue for the rest of my life. But it's hard to believe I can now call myself a doctor. This is the first time I write that, and if I'm honest, I'm tearing up. I've told friends and family I've passed my exams, but I've not called myself that yet. I want you to know how much... I am going to read this. I want you to know how much your content can mean to people. Since you started the Coping Hour, your podcast has brought structure to my week. I look forward to the next episode because I know I can keep working and studying hard until the next episode. You helped me start my week. Helped me keep me motivated over the weekend. These last 2 years have been particularly hard as my partner moved away to start working. She's a doctor herself, and in the UK, we only get some say as to where we work for the first 2 years of our career, so she had to leave London. Your podcast made the train rides to see her faster, the commutes to the hospital easier, and it always felt like a conversation when I needed it the most. You included some other stuff. There's some fun stuff at the end, and so we will read that, brother. I wanted to highlight this because... I don't want to speak selfishly at first, but since the email ended, it was sort of about my role in your life. That means a lot for me to hear that, like, I'm always curious. You know, I always sort of think of you. It's hard to do the show. I don't know. I love when you guys send in pictures of yourself, which, by the way, he did. He and his girlfriend, hopefully soon to be fiance, across. Beautiful couple. Beautiful couple. I am so appreciative of you allowing me to be part of your story. And also, like, I can't imagine, and this goes for anybody out there who's, like, really, like, doing their shit, like, for real, fulfilling their dreams. Like, if you want to be a doctor, that's something that, like, when you're a kid, to your point, I mean, you kind of already laid this out, but, like, if you're going to be a doctor, you know that you want to be a doctor when you're, like, 10 years old. You could, you know, it varies, but, like, when you're young, like, you're like, this is what I want to do because of how much school you have to do, because of how much education you have to get. Like, that's such a grind. You don't just kind of, like, wake up one day and I'm going to be a fucking doctor. Like, that just doesn't happen, right? And so to stay committed to that and to move, I don't know what Milan to London is. I mean, if we put that in the United States scale. So when I moved from Chicago/Michigan, I spent, like, it doesn't matter. So technically I left Michigan to go to California, right? So Detroit, Michigan to Los Angeles. What is that, 2,000 miles? Is that Milan to London? It has to be way more than 2,000 miles. It doesn't matter, dude. Being away from home, no matter what the distance is something that I think a lot of people who listen to the show can relate to. And the struggle of that, especially when you're completely alone. I relate to that. specifically, like, I don't know how familiar you are with the scale. I'm speaking specifically to you right now, brother. I don't know how familiar you are with the scale of the United States, but like moving from where I lived to where I ended up and having absolutely nobody. And you're like, if I fail, I might die out here. I'm not being funny, like real shit. If I don't figure this out, if this doesn't work, I don't know what's going to happen. I talked in maybe like a month ago or 2 months ago, I did an episode at the tail end, and I talked about how when I moved to California, I didn't have a house for the first 6 months. I was in and out of hotels. I was literally paycheck to paycheck, and all of my money just went to like making sure that I had a house for the next 4 days until I had to change hotels and like lug all of my bags, 2 miles to the next hotel, or maybe just down the block to the next hotel, like whoever had the cheapest rates and shit like that. And there were so many times where like I felt like I was achieving my dreams, but there's the part of you where you're like, but dog, the process of me achieving these dreams may literally be what kills me. And I don't know if there was you said you experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I don't know if the lowest of lows for you was like straight up being like, I might be homeless. I might be living on Downing Street, homeless, like straight up. I'm gonna have to camp out in front of Big Ben and like play the guitar and put a fucking tin can in front of me and be like, spare change. What is it? Quid? You got any spare quid out there? Put some coins in my little fucking thing. I don't know what it was like for you, but what you are expressing here on the Coping Hour, I believe, is deeply human and raw and emotional. And I am very thankful that is something that you wanted to share, not just with me, but with the audience. And I that's awesome for you that you were able to achieve that. Good for you, dude. You should call yourself a doctor. That shit's crazy. Sneaky a lot of doctors that listen to this show too. So there are going to be some people out there who like, they understand not to talk about money, but who fucking cares? We talk about all types of shit on this show. How expensive that is? Oh my God. Although the lawyers who listen to the show are also probably going to be like, yeah, pretty expensive to. I would say anybody probably it has nothing to do with being a doctor or being a lawyer. Anybody who has pursued a college education, it's just expensive. Most of you out there are probably in debt. Thank you very much for this email, dude. I want to finish it off, though. You included some stuff at the end. You said, now that I'm done with the emotions, I'd like to share some of my takes about some recent Coping Hour topics. You said, I need an explanation as to why you like Manchester City as much as you do. I love their coach, as he's the greatest coach my team has ever had. Parenthetically, you said Barcelona. But the team is generally disliked in Europe, as it's owned by the Abu Dhabi royal family, and therefore considered a quote-unquote oil club, where the growth was artificial through... Yeah, we actually kind of already covered this. That's funny. I forgot you mentioned this in the email. Yeah, we already covered this a little bit. What's the guy's name? Sheikh Mensa. Yeah, they just money launder, and what Man City does. I'll just water down what you did here, what you said here about Man City. Yeah, if you want to call that illegitimate, sure. It is like technically within the bounds of what is it, FFP, financial fair play, fair financial play, whatever it is that the EPL implemented like a little over a decade ago. They lie and say that it's within the bound, within the guidelines of that. It's not. There have been plenty of documented emails and leaked messages or whatever the fuck to suggest that Manchester City is very acutely aware of what they are doing, how they are doing it, and why they are doing it. So why do I like them? Well, you also included, I understand your love for Haaland. He is a special player. So is Mbappe. If I could add another player for you to watch, Lamine Yamal from Barcelona. He's been terrorizing defenses since he was 15. He's still only 17 and scored a goal in the Euro semifinals last summer in Spain. I think you'll enjoy his play and his highlights. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. So that's okay. So that's before we get to the next take. So why do I like them? Yeah, I mean, they're the best team. They're the best. Not this year. I mean, they're getting pounded in the league, but part of it is also just like, I'm not being funny, like the blue. I root for blue teams. I don't like rooting for red teams since I was a kid. Like, if you're a blue team, it's not even just that Manchester City is blue. It's my favorite shade of blue. Powder blue, university blue, pastel blue, whatever you want to call what City wears. That's my favorite color. That's my favorite shade of blue. So that's part of it, right? Yeah, Erling Haaland is the best player in the world, and I like watching the best player in the world. Who's the best player in England right now? Like the English national team, who's their best player? Are you going to say it's Harry Kane? Because he like has more goals as an English-born player than Wayne Rooney? Is that the statistic or something like that? Are you going to say it's Harry Kane? It might be Harry Kane. It's probably fucking Phil Foden or some shit like that. Kevin De Bruyne, love Kevin De Bruyne. Ederson exists. That's a guy that exists. I don't know, just top to bottom. There's a couple guys I'm forgetting. But like, Jeremy Doku. I never talk about Doku. I love that guy. Anytime I start a new managerial career in FIFA, whatever my transfer budget is, I get Doku. I love that guy, right? So I just think they have a lot of players that are fun to watch. You mentioned Pep Guardiola. I've always wondered like what the perception of him is, because I understand that as far as Europeans are concerned, like he is sort of the standard. Like that guy, everywhere he goes, he just wins. I watched that documentary. It's called like 4 in a Row or whatever it's called, that released on Peacock, about Man City winning 4 Premier League titles in a row. It like documented, it was like their last dance sort of documentary, but for winning the Premier League for the 4th time in a row. And watching Pep Guardiola that whole time, dude, his accent is so funny because you have no fucking idea. Like, you need real life subtitles to listen. Like, I have no idea what he's talking about, like most of the time. That's why it's so hard to win 4 Premier Leagues in a row. The way that I just said that sounded way more like what's legible, but with speaking. Like if your handwriting is readable, it's legible. What's that with words? The way I just did a Pep Guardiola impression. Impromptu, I've never tried that one before. Maybe I'll work on it in the shower or something like that. I did a lot of Borat the other day. I've done so much Borat this week. I speak to my son as Borat all the time. I think maybe I need to stop doing that. What kind of dog is this? Why do I like Manchester City? They're the bad guys. And I love rooting for the bad guys. It's authentic. That's it. They're good, and I like rooting for the bad guys. That is literally it, and Erling Haaland. If Erling Haaland played anywhere else, I would probably root for that team. I don't root for Man City, by the way. It doesn't matter. You also included, I also want to say that I don't think Darwin Nunez is that guy. He's a solid player, but you expect more out of a player bought for that price tag and playing as Liverpool's striker. Cool. So we have another guy who's Darwin Nunez is actually not that good. Why are you guys such fucking haters? If you look at Darwin Nunez's last 16 shots, you know how many of them are goals? 4 of them? 3 of them? You know how many strikers in the EPL in Europe would fall on a grenade to have 3 goals in their last 16 shots on net? A lot of them. A lot of them. I don't think Jamie Vardy is a good comparison here, considering he's 100 fucking years old. He's like, 13 years older than Darwin Nunez? It's not a good example. You know how many goals Leicester has scored in the last 7 games? None. 0. It's like, if they had Darwin Nunez, we'd be having a different conversation. Now, your point here is that if you're playing for Liverpool, the team who is like top of the table right now and has wrapped up the league at this point, they did get bounced by PSG. Wah, wah. Didn't they also just get bounced by it's not really even bounced. I mean, it was the final. Was it the Carabao against Newcastle? How the fuck did Newcastle win that? Was that a dream that I had? That happened. As I'm saying that out loud, I was like, I think I dreamt that. No, Newcastle won. Yeah, that happened. It was 2-1. And then Liverpool had a bullshit goal at the end of the game. That happened. I swear to God that happened. Someone will fact check me. Am I getting Mandela affected? 2 weeks ago, I swear to God, Newcastle beat Liverpool to win the Carabao Cup. Whatever. Do I think Darwin Nunez is that guy? Yeah, I just think he plays too excited. I think he is offsides constantly because he's too excited. I think he doesn't look where he's shooting and he just blasts it into the back line's shin. The center back is 2 feet in front of him. Darwin Nunez has no awareness of where the guy is. Blasts it into the guy's knee. And you're like, okay. Give the guy's header a chance. I'd love that. Put a nice volley up there. Someone give him a nice through ball. But like in the air, and let Darwin Nunez use his noggin. I think maybe then we'd be having a different conversation. I'm not gonna move on this, by the way. You guys can send me as many emails as you want about this guy. I think you guys are wrong. And then the last football take here, You mentioned that you like Real Madrid's defender Asensio. I just wanted to let you know about his ongoing court case. He's being trialed for the distribution of sexual videos involving a minor. He is innocent until found guilty, but you may want to look that up. Sincerely, Eric. God damn it, Eric. I didn't need to know that. I didn't need to know that. What if I didn't know that? And for the rest of my life, I was like, that Asensio character from Real Madrid, like, whatever happened to him? Wow, I guess people just kind of forgot that he was like the best passing defender playing in Spain. And he just kind of fell off of the face of the earth. Didn't need to know that. That's too bad. You know, innocent until proven guilty. Well, it seems like maybe something. I understand your sentiment there. I appreciate it, because I think in the age of social media and our current culture, I think accusations are often treated as convictions. And so something comes out about somebody, and even if it's unsubstantiated, like, I don't really want to use the Josh Giddey thing as an example, but if you guys really wanted to be adults and have that conversation, we could have that conversation in the next episode. We actually got an email about that I've been meaning to read for like 2 goddamn weeks. I think people do often get dogpiled for an accusation coming out. I'm not saying Asensio, in this instance, for distributing what sounds like child pornography, deserves the benefit of the doubt. Sounds like me, but he's playing in the games, so why don't I just look into it? Why don't I not talk about this? I will take your advice and I'll just look into it. I am currently denouncing this behavior. That's not cool. So that's not right. Because it's one thing. No, it's not one thing. This guy is literally Wander Franco. Is that what it sounds like? Well, didn't Wander Franco actually, he did it though. Like, he did it. He wasn't just like sending videos and fucking Telegram. These encrypted messaging apps, using Signal to send that shit around. No, Wander Franco was in the video. That guy was literally in the video. And that guy, like, is he in jail yet? If Asensio goes to jail and there's a video of me being like, this is the best player I've ever seen in my life. Was it the first game was the first or second leg of the match, the Champions League matchup against Man City, that Asensio had I think it was the second leg, because I think it was Mbappe's hat trick. Just a beautiful ball, like 60-yard bomb to Mbappe. He takes like one touch, bop, kills Ederson. Ederson dead on the pitch. Whoa, holy shit. So Asensio no longer the best passing defender in Spain, because he's a pedophile. Damn it. What else do I got for you guys today? Hey, I'll send you guys out with this. We talked about this a little bit in like maybe a week ago, but we got an email from Drew, who threw together a coping hours census. I believe the census happens every 10 years. The last one, I think, would have been 2020. We're a couple of years off, but it's the coping hour. Maybe we'll do this every single year. What's a census? We're just gonna collect some. We're gonna harvest some data from you guys. Just some normal stuff like, what education level are you at, and your age, and what teams do you root for, and how often do you listen to the show? What platform do you listen to the show on? The link will be in the description if you want to go check it out. Just sort of trying to get a gauge on like you as the listener. I'm just curious. A lot of info. There's a lot of questions. You don't have to answer them all if you don't want. Answer the ones that apply to you or until you get tired. There's a lot of questions. Drew was very thorough with this, and I think we'll probably revisit this I'm gonna let this sit for like a week, because not everybody listens to every episode. So I'll probably keep plugging it through next Friday's episode, and then not this upcoming Monday, but the following Monday after that. Maybe we'll do some reviews. So the link to the coping hours census will be in the description of the YouTube video. I don't believe the link will translate if I put it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So if you're interested in participating, head over to the Motown Noah YouTube channel, most recent coping hour episode, and I will have the link in there for you guys. Thank you very much again to Drew. I think he's like a data analysis. I don't remember what you said you were in here, but thank you very much, dude. I mean, he nailed this. A lot of questions in there. So again, very daunting, but please, if you want to fill them all out, we'll go over some answers. It's almost like, instead of Spotify Wrapped, it's like coping hour Wrapped. That's all that it is. If you don't know what a census is, it's basically like coping hour Wrapped. We just want to harvest all of your data. That's all that it is. No social security shit, no like routing number, no checking number, no IP address. You don't have to include that if you don't want. It would be cool if you did. I wouldn't use it and I wouldn't sell it to anybody, but if you did, we would know as a collective, as a constituency, we would know. What else do I got for you guys today? I had about 20 minutes on the JFK shit, and I ran too long today, so I guess we'll have to kick that down the can. Kick that down the can? Kick that can down the road. Believe us how that one goes. Unintentional rhyme, I do that from time to time. Dr. Seuss in this news. I don't know if that one counts. If you are watching this on YouTube, that's not how that goes. If you're listening to this on Spotify, I've run too long. I don't have a question for you guys. Have you filled out the census yet? That's your question. Go over to the YouTube and fill out the goddamn census. Apple Podcasts. What's up? What's up? If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.